They called me patient. They called me weak. They called me old-fashioned. But no one called me rich. Not until the world thought I was the story. Have you ever been overlooked by your own family? Have you ever given until your hands hurt and then been told you gave too much? If you have, this may be your story too. My name's Ruth Harlan. I grew up in Chillicothe, Ohio, a river town, a mill town, the kind of place where the factory whistles set the day. I learned to nurse at Ohio University. I wore a starched cap and I wanted to help. Then I married Walter. He was all strengths, big hands, loud laugh, steady as a bridge over the river. We made a home. We had 5 children. Life was full and loud and good. For years I gave my best. I gave my hands. I gave my hours. I gave my silent prayers. I gave when prices rose and when the kids needed shoes. I gave when the doctor bills came. I gave like the river flows, quiet and steady. Then the arthritis came. My knuckles swelled. My hands creaked. I still kept going. I still fixed dinners. I still sat up nights when somebody was sick. That is what you do. That is what I knew. Life could be gentle. We had a road trip once, Zion Canyon, red rocks against a blue sky. Little moments like that sat in my pocket. They kept me warm when things got cold. Then Walter got sick. Black lung from the mill. We fought long months in the hospital. I held his hand. I washed his hair. I watched the monitors. He died on a winter morning. The house felt too quiet after that. The chair where he sat stayed warm for a while. The radio kept talking, and I listened to nothing. My children scattered. They lived their lives. The girls moved to cities. Wesley stayed close. He married Nora. They had a boy. He said he would always be there for us. I believed him the way you believe your own blood. A few days after Walter's funeral, I took a trip west to visit Wesley. He lived in a nice house now. Big windows, toll lights, a buzzer at the front. I walked up the path with a jar of thimbleberry jam I had canned myself. I had stirred it on the morning I left. I tied the lid tight. The buzzer sounded. A woman opened the door. She looked at me hard. Her hair was done. Her clothes were new. She called me names I could not say again and pushed me. I stumbled. The jar fell and smashed. The jam ran on the steps like spilled blood. People laughed. I picked up what I could. My pride hurt worse than my knees. Later that night, I watched Wesley on TV. He and his wife were on a show. They talked about kindness. They said strange things about sacrifice. They told the world a story about a woman who had once saved a young boy's life and then vanished. A story like a folk tale. A story that made people feel something clean and bright. They put a gold label on that story. They called the woman Miracle Mother. The story looked beautiful on camera. I listened. My throat tightened. I had been the one who sat up nights while that same woman had fever. I had patched her pants after she fell from a fence. I had given her soup and clean sheets when the laundromat was full. I'd paid for things with overtime at the clinic so she could go to school. All of it was quiet work. None of it had a camera. Soon the internet picked it up. People shared the story. People felt moved. Donations poured in. Events were planned. The maternal miracle, said headlines. Money came. Big money. Praise came. More praise. My own name was not in the shout. I was a shadow in my own kitchen. I felt 2 things at once. I felt proud that help was coming to people in need. I felt hurt that my small handprint on that life was turned into something else. I felt invisible and seen at the same time. How does that happen? Then the truth came out. The woman they praised had a long trail. She had changed names. She had stories from many towns stitched into one. She had told people she had loss after loss. Some of those stories were true. Some were not. It turned out she had built herself into a legend. She had been good at telling the same tale in every town and getting people to clap. When the story collapsed, people looked for blame. Reporters dug through files. Old neighbors spoke up. Threads of the great tale unraveled. The money was frozen for a while. People felt cheated. People felt sad. Some felt angry. Wesley faced the cameras. He said they had been trying to honor a life. He said he had wanted to right wrongs. It was awkward to watch. Then one night, at almost 3 a.m, my phone rang. It was Wesley. My heart jumped. He said there was talk about my savings. He said there were lawyers asking questions. He said one of the banks thought a large sum might belong to me. I nearly dropped the phone. I had something saved. Not a lot by the world's measure, but enough to make a difference. Years before, when the kids were small and work was lean, I had bought a small plot of land out west. I had planted a few berry bushes. I had tucked away a few dollars. I never told anyone. I kept it like an old recipe. It wasn't about the money. It was about having a little shelter for the future. Wesley said the number being discussed was huge. I laughed at first. Then I cried. He asked me to come to town and see a lawyer. He said, "Ma, they think you're rich." I said, "Rich in what? Jam jars?" He said, "Maybe you can help." In the days that followed, my phone buzzed. People called. Old friends. New faces. The press called my number by mistake. I kept my hands busy. I made more jam. I went to the lodge where the women meet and shared a pie. I sat with Ada next door and traded bulbs for stories. Ada has lived on our street since I can remember. She knows my knuckles and my heart. I listened to my own blood. I heard the story in my head. I thought, what would I want to leave? What would I want to fix? I thought of the women who mended the world with 2 hands and a prayer. I thought of the veterans who had no one. I thought of the girls who worried about rent, the men who fixed cars for a living and couldn't fix their own teeth. I thought of what Walter would say. He would want us to be steady. He would want us to be useful. So I made a plan. No big speeches. No trophies. I wrote small checks. I gave to the clinic where I once worked. I helped pay for a kitchen roof at the senior center. I paid for an afternoon of groceries for folks who needed them. I set aside money for help with heating bills. I gave to families who lost a child to illness and had no one to turn to. I gave in small, quiet ways, in the same way I had always lived. News still came. Some people still saw the old headlines. Some wanted to know why I chose quiet. Why not a big foundation? Why not a statue? My answer was simple. I had lived by a small rule. Help where you can. Sit with the lonely. Fix a leak. Mend a collar. Hold a hand. That stays with a person longer than a plaque. One afternoon, I went back to Wesley's house. Not for a fight. Not for fame. I brought a jar of jam. He opened the door and looked at me for a long time. There were quiet apologies in his eyes. He said, "Ma, I'm sorry." I said, "I know. We put the past into its place. We did not erase it. We did not make speeches. We started again." People ask me now if I regret anything. I do not. I regret being invisible for so many years. I regret that my help was turned into a show. But I do not regret giving. I do not regret the nights at Walter's bedside. I do not regret the aprons and the patched knees and the supper dishes scraped with care. Those things were the map of my life. If you're listening and you have a small kindness in your hand, give it. If you have a savings account you've kept like a secret recipe, think about what it could do. Maybe fix a roof. Maybe help a neighbor. Maybe fund a class at the community center. Maybe pay for a handyman to fix a ramp. Little things make big homes. What would you do with a little extra? Who would you call? Who needs a hand that only you can give? There is power in being small and steady. There is power in being present. There is power in an ordinary life lived kindly. People still talk about the Miracle Mother story. People still tweet and post and argue. But in the end, I sleep well. My hands hurt sometimes. My steps are slower. My heart knows the sound of Walter's laugh. I will eat jam on toast for breakfast again tomorrow. I will mend a sock. I will spend an hour with Ada. I will make a warm pot of soup. If this story rings a bell, write to me. Tell me about a small gift you remember giving. Tell me about the day someone surprised you. Tell me who you would help if you could. Tell me what matters most in your kitchen. We will swap recipes for courage. We are not relics. We're not shadows. We are people who have made small, fierce choices. We are the women and men who patched lives together. We are the ones who know the worth of a quiet hand. If you want to do one small thing right now, call an old friend. Bring a pie. Tell a story. Share the jam. If you feel my story was valuable, then comment and give your like the video. I am Ruth Harlan. I am someone who kept small jars on a shelf. Those jars fed more than mouths. They fed memory. They fed hope. And when the world tries to give you a label, remember this. You can choose what that label means. You can make it kind. You can make it true. Subscribe the channel for more life stories that are truly valuable.